What's going on, y'all? Thank you for tuning into another video. On today's video, I want to talk about some things that you should, and to me, they're kind of non-negotiable things that you should do before you shoot your first wedding. Now, I did a video a couple weeks ago about what you should do before you second shoot your first wedding, but this is a video on what you should do before you lead shoot your first wedding. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And actually, before we get into it, full disclaimer, this is just my personal preferences on what you should do before you lead shoot your first wedding. This is what I did. So this is not like a one all be all, like this is the only correct answer. I'm sure there's other avenues and stuff like that you can kind of go down, but this is just my personal experience. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first thing that you should be doing non-negotiably before you lead shoot your first wedding is learning your camera. So I've seen so many posts on Facebook saying, hey, I'm shooting my first wedding or shooting my first event or whatever, and I don't know how to work my settings. Like, can you help me? And it's like, why are you accepting wedding work if you don't know how to use your camera? That's like the basics of the basics. Like, if you didn't know how to do like creative lighting or creative portraiture, or if you didn't know how to do like stuff like that, like the more creative stuff, then like that's understandable. But just not knowing shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, and just how those interchangeably work in the exposure triangle, like not knowing that, you should not be accepting wedding work. And that's not to discourage anybody. That's just like to say you're about to capture somebody's most important day and you don't know the basics. So why would you expect them to like be happy with the product? Or like it just doesn't really make sense to me. So you need to learn your camera, you need to learn the exposure triangle, you need to understand like how shutter speed, aperture, and ISO work all together. And if you don't, there's videos out there explaining the exposure triangle. I'm probably not gonna make a video on that because it's just so many people out there already done it. But that's just one thing you need to know, non-negotiable. The second thing that you need to do, in my opinion, before you lead shoot your first wedding is to understand lighting, gain an understanding for lighting and what you need to do and how you need to position certain people in certain lighting scenarios. So like for instance, if you're lead shooting a wedding and you're about to take family portraits and it's high sun and there's, you know, like the ceremony was happening, the sun was beating down, now you're about to take family portraits. Like, what do you do in that lighting scenario? And like understanding certain stuff like that is going to be the difference between someone who knows photography and someone who just is in the wedding industry for money. And obviously the money is good in the wedding industry, and I don't fault you for getting into the wedding industry for money, but if you're going to get into it for money and think you're worth a certain amount of money, you need to learn the certain things to be eligible, or to kind of explain your validity in why you're charging this certain amount. Like, you just need to know these basic things. For example, you need to know when to backlight, when to front light, when to find shade, when it's okay to be shooting in full sun, how to use the light that's available to you. And there's so many resources out there that can teach you all these things, and it takes time. Like, you're not just about to pick up a camera yesterday and start shooting a wedding today and think that, oh, I need to learn this stuff overnight. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to take months and a lot of trial and error, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And you really got to want to put effort and work into this thing to actually be good at it. It's like anything else, like basketball, football, like any sport or whatever. Like, you need to put time in order to be good, and not just time in on the field or on the court or on the camera, but also time behind the scenes learning. Yeah, you got to be a student of the game, got to be a student of photography in order to really be good at photography. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm still a student of the game. I'm not making this video saying I'm all high and mighty and better than everybody. That's not what I'm out to do, but I am out to share what I have already learned and share it with people who are still have yet to learn what I've learned, or that just want like a refresher, or, you know, anything like that. The third thing you need to do before you lead shoot your first wedding is to third or second shoot. Going into your first wedding day is going to be nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm lead shooting my first wedding, like what if I mess up? And those are all natural thoughts, like very natural. Like, I've played sports my whole life, and then like if you put me on a football field right now, I'll still get a little like pregame jitters, even though I've been playing it my whole life. Same thing with basketball. I'll still get a little pregame jitters, but once the show's on the road, like I'm good. But that's just a part of it, you know what I mean? So going into a wedding day, you're going to be, have those pre-game jitters. You're going to be a little bit nervous, but once you click the camera for the first time, like, you're good. But going into your first wedding, it might be, kind of lingering. You might be like, okay, well, I hope I'm doing this right. And you might be inside your own head. But in order to kind of suppress that, or in order for that not to be as prevalent, third and second shooting is going to help you out a lot, because you'll get a better understanding of how a wedding day works. So for me, for instance, I am lead shooting my first wedding in October. I have third shot a few weeks ago, early June, third shot, and then the week after that I second shot. So not only am I going into my lead shoot day knowing kind of how a wedding day works, but also I have that experience under my belt. Now I have portfolio. Now my portfolio can speak for itself. And some people are going to say, well, in order to get into the wedding industry, you just got to charge cheap prices. No, you don't. That is a myth. That is not true. This is my first wedding lead shooting, and I charged over $1,000, like, for 5 hours. And people are gonna be like, well, it's your first wedding, you shouldn't be charging that much. My portfolio speaks for itself, and I put in the ample education and time in order to learn what's going on and be comfortable in what I'm doing, that I'm able to charge that much. So you don't have to charge cheap prices in order to get into the industry if you take the necessary steps to be able to charge ample prices for your lead shooting day, even if it be your first. So just keep that in mind. And the good thing about third shooting is that there's really no pressure. So when you're third shooting, obviously there's a second shooter, but your pictures are not necessarily needed. Like, the lead photographer isn't going to ask for your pictures at the end of the day. They're only going to ask for the second photographer's picture. So you're just out there shooting just to get comfortable and build portfolio, if they let you build portfolio. That's another thing. Like, if you're going to third or second shoot, like, make sure you can use those pictures on your website or on your Instagram so you can build portfolio, because you want something to show to future clients. If you're not able to use those pictures for your own portfolio, then you can still do it for the experience, but then you're going to have to find different ways to build portfolio, like style shoots or something like that, or content days. But make sure that you can use those pictures in your portfolio if you third and second shoot. That's going to help you out a lot. But as a third shooter, you're just kind of out there lingering, shooting what you want, shooting what you can. You can talk to the lead shooter and say, hey, do you want me to get something specific? And then you'll be able to get that. But that's a great way to build your portfolio, because there's no pressure. As a second shooter, there's a little bit of pressure because they're relying on you to get these certain shots, because they're going to use some of your pictures to deliver in the final gallery. So you need to be on top of your game. So before second shooting, I'd recommend third shooting. And if it's a huge wedding, some might do fourth shooting. That's on a very rare occasion. But second shooting, you definitely got to be on your game, just like a lead shooter. But third shooting, there's no pressure at all. The fourth thing that you should do that will really help you before you lead shoot a wedding is to watch full wedding days on YouTube. There's hundreds of photographers out there on YouTube who will strap a GoPro to their chest and like record their full wedding day and put it on YouTube for free education. So you can look at these full wedding days and say, okay, this is how a wedding day works. Like, you're not there, but you can kind of get a virtual education thing on how a wedding day works, as long as it's like a traditional wedding day. Like, if you're getting into like Jewish weddings, then you need to be watching Jewish weddings, or if you're getting into like foreign weddings, you know what I mean? But me, just a traditional wedding photographer, like, I watch traditional weddings on YouTube to kind of get an understanding of what's going on. So the main ones that I watch is John Branch for photography. I watch Photos by Reem, Forte Films and Stills, and Michael Yang, I want to say his name is. But they post full wedding days on YouTube, and it's just great education. And they're letting you come behind the scenes and say, okay, this is what I'm doing on a full wedding day. And I really love Photos by Reem because he is a luxury style photographer, and that's kind of what I want to branch into, like that luxury style of weddings. So I need to learn how luxury style weddings work. So I've watched him religiously, his stuff on YouTube and also Instagram, and his posing and everything is just like hands down one of the best photographers that I've ever seen up to date. And I haven't seen a whole lot because I haven't been in this game super long, but for the time I've been in, he's one of the best that I've ever seen. And He puts out some really good stuff. So watch those full wedding days on YouTube to kind of get a better understanding of how a wedding day works, what you should be doing, the timeline, and how to go about shooting the ceremony, shooting the reception, shooting the flat lays, shooting the getting readies, like all that stuff. That stuff is really gonna help. Like, don't just rely on Facebook groups to say, hey, like, what should I do in this situation? Like, go to YouTube. It's free education. I'm YouTube certified, and YouTube is going to be a lot better than you going to your local community college and taking a photography class. I guarantee that. So go on YouTube, watch a full wedding day, and get that education. The fifth and final thing for this video, there's more that you need to be doing, I'm sure, but for this video, the fifth thing that you need to be doing is buying and or renting the proper gear for your wedding. So I see on Facebook a lot of times they're like, hey, I'm on a camera, like I have one lens, it's a kit lens, it's a variable aperture of 4 to 7, and it's a 18 to 55. Like, is that good enough? Probably not. Like, I mean, so can you do it? You can, but I'm a firm believer of just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like, there should be some gear in your kit that will get, not just like, you don't want to go into a wedding saying like, oh, this will get the job done. You want to go into a wedding saying this is the proper gear for what I want to shoot, for the look I want to get. So if like you're going into a wedding and you don't have a whole lot of money to buy these like $2,000 and $3,000 lenses, you can rent. Like, rent them for like $50 for the day or $100 for the day. Rent like, you know, 28 to 70, 24 to 70. You can rent like a 50 millimeter, 85 millimeter, 70-200. And, you know, those lenses are going to, you know, get you the best quality shots for your wedding day, because you don't want to deliver a gallery and your clients are like, what is this? Like, you know, you want to be able to produce a quality gallery to deliver to your client, because not only do you want your portfolio to speak for itself, but you want your clients to be able to refer you confidently because you did a good job for their wedding. Like, you don't want to deliver a wedding and then the client's like, yeah, I want my money back because you did a terrible job. Like, you don't want that. Like, you absolutely do not want that. It's never happened to me, but you don't want that. Like, trust me, you don't want that. Whether it be a wedding, engagement shoot, like, you don't want that. You want to always deliver the best quality product. So buying and renting the proper gear is always going to be what you want to do. And I said that was the fifth and final, but this is a bonus tip. Bonus, what you need to be doing before you shoot your first wedding is you need to have a camera with 2 card slots. Now, there's so many people that are like, well, I don't think I really need 2 card slots. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't really see the point of 2 card slots. Let's talk about it. 2 card slots because of redundancy. You want to record to both cards because if one SD card fails, you have another SD card with all the pictures on it. If you're shooting on a camera with one SD card and that card fails and you lost all the pictures, what are you going to tell your client?
Sorry, like, I don't know what happened. Like, my camera failed.
Bro, don't do that. Don't do that. So do me a favor and do yourself a favor and get a camera with 2 card slots. If you don't have one, rent one. And just do that for me, please, because you want redundancy. You want to record to both cards. And also, you might even want to get a second camera body because you want to be able to have, like, if you're shooting on 2 prime lenses, then you can have 1 prime, like a 35 on one camera body and an 85 on another camera body. And then you could just pick up, you know, whatever body you want to use and, you know, go from there. So you don't have to be constantly changing lenses the whole day. It'll make for a better workflow and make for an easier workflow, faster workflow, and just a more stress-free, less stressful, stress-free wedding. Yeah, that kicked my butt a little bit. But there's a bunch of other things that you need to be comfortable with before your first wedding day, but this is just a couple. And these are kind of like the non-negotiables that you kind of need to do before your first wedding. And, you know, if you aren't doing these, then it's probably not going to be a good experience for you. It's probably not going to be a good experience for the client. But like I said, this is not like the end all be all, the one thing, one-stop shop. This is just my personal experience. But yeah, like, do yourself a favor and learn these things. And you also need to learn flash, on-camera flash, off-camera flash. But that's for another video. I might do a demo on that, but anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. If this video was of substance to you or of help to you, like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. I don't know how many people made it to the end of the video, but if you did make it to the end of the video, before you leave a comment, drop the letters VE. VE ... and then leave your comment. I don't know, just see who makes it to the end. VE. Okay, anyway, appreciate y'all, and until next time.